Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Job Search Strategies Summer 2020. My name is Joe Catrino. I'm the Director of Career Development and Special Assistant to the Vice President for Innovation here at Trinity, and welcome. I hope you're doing well. I hope you've navigated finals and that you're starting to get the grades you expected in. I'm joined tonight by three wonderful alumni who have taken the time out of their busy schedule to join us. So what we're going to do tonight, the way it's going to be structured is each of our alums will introduce themselves, talk a little bit about their background. And what we've done is we've accumulated a variety of questions from you over the last couple of days and identified some themes. And so what we're going to do is take you through the themes, and each of the alumni are going to take an opportunity to answer those questions. And then if you have questions during the actual event right now, you can actually use the Q&A button on the bottom. If we have time, we will try to get to those. We want to answer as many of the questions that came in over the last few days, but we will, if you have Q&A or a question, please feel free to type it in there and I'll navigate those if we have time. We have about a little less than an hour at this point. So what I want to do is I want to turn it over to our alumni and have them introduce ourselves. And I'm going to start off with Lisa.
So hi, everyone. I'm Lisa Bisaccia, class of 1978. For those of you who are thinking about how does someone succeed in business with a liberal arts background, my major was modern languages with a focus on Renaissance Italian and Spanish poetry. So as you might imagine, my phone was ringing off the hook when I graduated with job offers. I really entered my career, which is human resources. So I've been 42 years at a hospital in Hartford at St. Francis Hospital, starting off as a recruiter, then progressed through various disciplines in HR, ended up spending most of my career until the early 2000s in banking, specifically in corporate and investment banking. I picked up an MBA along the way because I really needed the basics in finance and accounting, but also, frankly, for the credential as well. And so in 2004, I was fortunate enough to join CVS Health, which at the time was a pharmacy company, and now, as most of you know, is the country's largest health services company, having just recently acquired Aetna right here in Hartford. We have about 300,000 employees, three major businesses, revenues of approaching $280 billion. And I am head of HR and have been since 2010. And so my portfolio includes all the HR practices for those 300,000 employees, but perhaps more importantly, coming up with a human capital agenda for our workforce, which is our greatest assets. In addition, I'm responsible for all the philanthropy that the corporation does, as well as corporate social responsibility. I live in Rhode Island and come to Hartford often, and I have been on the board of trustees since 2016, I think.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lisa. Lynn?
Thank you. And first of all, Joe, thanks so much for having me. And I'm so excited to be here with the class of 2020. This is very exciting. So congratulations to you all. I am the class of 1985. I was a double major in intercultural studies and French. And then the day I graduated from Trinity, I got on a bus to Newport, Rhode Island, and was a sailor on a boat for about a year. So that was back in 1985. And then soon after that, I got a master's in international management and then went to go work for an advertising agency called Ogilvy and Mather, was there for a few years, and then fell into becoming an executive recruiter and ended up loving it, and was a phenomenal career in terms of enjoyment. And I did it mainly for investment banks, both in the United States and in Europe, and did that for a firm for a while, and then ultimately my own firm and in-house at some banks. And then after many years of that, I became a mom and did a lot of the things that one does, you know, in the community with things like that. And when it was time for me to get back to work, I really wasn't as excited anymore about Wall Street, but I still loved job search and recruiting more than anything. So ended up working and developing a nonprofit that basically did workshops for high school and college students, teaching them how to choose, get, and do a great job. And what that evolved into was my own sort of college and career coaching business, which is Interview Mama. That's what I am. And that's what I spend my time doing now, is working with students and recent grads and young professionals, trying to help them connect their educations and their passions to finding fulfillment and achieving their goals in the work world. So excited to get to be here to talk to you all about that.
Thank you, Lynn. Kathryn?
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. It's pretty hard to follow Interview Mama, is all I have to say. So I'm Kathryn Tyree. I'm class of '86, and I want to start by saying how sorry I am for all of you that you have to have your senior spring remotely wherever you are. I know how awful it is to miss senior spring. I have 2 college kids myself and 1 graduate. And so I just want you to know that I am definitely thinking of you, and to have the anxiety of trying to find a job when the world is remote. It's just icing on the cake. So I'm class of '86. I majored in economics at Trinity and joined Brown Brothers Harriman, where I've been for the last 37 years. I've had a lot of different jobs. I started out in our commodity trade finance group and worked there. I then ran sales research and trading. And when I had my 3rd child, I asked to have a job that did not involve clients or travel, so I could be at home. And so I spent the next 10 to 15 years in legal, compliance, risk, audit, and HR. Around 5 years ago, when my youngest was going to boarding school, I said, I'm ready to have clients again. And so I have been working since then overseeing our private banking business, which is wealth management, private banking, and corporate banking. And I'm happy to be here, and please ask us a lot of questions.
Thank you. So I think what's burning on a lot of the students' minds, the seniors that are here, is what are current hiring practices? What is it like out there right now? So if I could ask each of you to just kind of talk a little bit about the hiring practices that your companies are experiencing, or the things that you're observing when you're talking to colleagues or fellow classmates. So I'm going to start off with Lynn, and then I'll move to Lisa and Kathryn.
Thanks, Joe. That sounds great. In terms of what specific companies are doing, I'm going to leave that to Kathryn and Lisa, because they know best. But in terms of what it's like out there right now, is, as you all know, the economy is suffering, but there are industries, there are companies that not only are hiring, they're hiring in a big way, and they're hiring urgently. So what I would say to you in terms of current hiring is look to those companies, look to those needs, look to those places that not only are that aren't hiring in spite of the pandemic, even ones that are hiring because of it. Meaning there are all sorts of industries that are developing right now that are new, that are virtual, whether it's virtual retail or whether it's the healthcare industry, things now where there's so much need, and they need young people like you who have a lot of the skills, a lot of the virtual skills that maybe some of our traditional workforce may not have as much. So I'd say in general terms, start with where are the opportunities. And if you're looking at job boards, which are definitely a way to start the process, look at things that were posted, not a month ago, but even, a week ago, meaning look at where the need is right now, because those are companies that are looking for you.
Shall I go next?
Yes, thanks.
So I would agree with everything Lynn said. My company has hired 60,000 people this year. Now, a lot of them are in our stores, so they may not be the kind of career opportunity that everyone's looking for. But many of those jobs were in our offices, whether it was in finance or human resources or law or product development, digital, a whole variety of disciplines. There are some industries that are not hiring, and we know what those are. It's difficult to join an airline now, to join food service, companies that are dedicated to restaurant chains. So there are certain industries where they are sorting out what their new business model is going to be, and they are understandably reluctant to make any investments in staff right now. But there are many industries who did not shut down during this pandemic. They sent people home. They sent people home to work from home, but the folks are still working, and their hiring has gone on. So I would agree with what Lynn said. You can't look at the opportunities you were looking at in February or March. You have to look at the opportunities that are showing up now, because companies have reimagined how they're going to staff their teams, how they're going to organize those teams, how they're going to organize the work. So there are opportunities out there that people may not have comprehended or thought about 90 days ago. And I expect that will continue through the balance of this year. The other thing I would say is don't pigeonhole yourself. You are a graduate of a wonderful college. You have a lot of transferable and portable skills. You can play in many different areas. And those of us who hire new graduates don't expect you to be experts in everything. We know it's your first job. So what we expect you to have is a willingness to learn. We expect you to have a curiosity about how we do business. And we expect you to have a willingness to join a corporate culture and see how you can make a difference. So the worst thing you can do is to limit your job search by some pre-established boundaries of where you think you'll fit in. You want to blue sky it. The worst that can happen is that you will have a very useful interview experience, which all of us benefit from. So yes, there are parts of the economy that are suffering. Yes, there are parts of the economy that would welcome your talents, but unfortunately just can't make it work right now. But there are more parts of the economy that are still looking for high potential new career talent, and they're looking for students, new graduates who are flexible, who are willing to try things, and who are willing to become part of a company as we all imagine how we're going to emerge from this pandemic and how it will change our business model.
And so I would just add to that, I agree with everything that Lisa and Lynn have said. At Brown Brothers, if you had asked me this question 3 weeks ago, I'd have a very different answer. I think in financial services, firms took a really big pause in mid-March. A lot of firms announced hiring freezes. A lot of firms just put a complete hold on recruiting except for very essential hires. I would say in the last 2 weeks that has opened up. I think firms are now realizing remote work is the new normal. We're going to be doing this for a long time. And so we need to get on with business as usual. So all those jobs that were in the budget, we're now starting to recruit for them. We figured out how to recruit remotely. We figured out how to use Zoom. We figured out how to onboard. And so, you know, a month ago, we weren't skilled in that. And so I don't think you guys have lost any time by, you know, not doing things the last few weeks, because I think, you know, many industries have just been on pause and are starting to open up and to hire.
Great, thank you. So I think a lot of students are now curious, as you say, Kathryn. Companies are starting to warm up, starting to think about what options are out there. So students are wondering what can they be doing right now. So Lynn, tell me, how do I get an interview if I'm out there right now, if I'm just about to graduate? How do I get an interview?
That's great. I think, well, first of all, to find out, you have lots of sources. You have your Handshake, you have the Bantam Network, you have LinkedIn, you have Indeed, you have all the sort of traditional places that you'll learn about jobs, or you'll hear about jobs, or you'll read articles that CVS is hiring, or you'll get news that way. But once you've sort of decided, okay, I want to really pursue that job, then you learn everything you can about that job, about that industry, about that company, and then tailor your letter and your application to why you will be really great for that company and that job and that industry. This sort of is whether it's your cover letter or your application or your interview, it's really not about you. It's about them. So figure out what it is that you really can bring to the party and get excited about it and put it together in terms of your application. And then I'd say go one step further and use your network. And your network can be your family, it can be your friends, but the one that's staring you all in the face right now that is so tremendous is your Trinity network. And I want to tell a really quick story that I've told over the years many times to students who are looking for jobs, but I've never gotten to tell it to Trinity students. So I'm really excited. I was a recruiter for many years. And when I was ready to sort of get back in the game in recruiting in a way, there was a firm that I really wanted to work for and that I was really excited about what they were doing. And I did everything that I tell everyone else to do. I found who I wanted to reach out to, and I gave it my best shot and wrote my best cover letter and told all the reasons why I thought it'd be great. And I sent it off. This was email. This was not when I was a recent grad. This was in the past, I'd say 10, 15 years. And I sent it off and I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear a thing. And I had researched this fellow and what he did and knew all about him. And I thought written a really good letter. And I was a little obsessed about the whole thing. And so I was reading more about it. And I had overlooked one really important thing. He went to Trinity College. Okay? He went to Trinity College. And he was there actually a few years before I was. I did not know him. And he was a little older than I was. I sent the identical letter, except that I added in, I'm also a Trinity alum. I heard back from him the same day. I flew to DC and met with him and got the job offer and whatever. But the point is, and he also was a recruiter, so he and I laughed about that. But the reason I'm telling you that story is that once you identify where you want to work or what the role is, then that's when you go to LinkedIn and think, okay, who at that company went to Trinity? Who at that company, or it could be from your town, but reach out to them. And just when you reach out, be gracious, be friendly, and say, here's what I'm interested in at your company. Here's why I think it'd be great. And here's why I'd love to talk to you about it, just to see if I can get any insight on the company. And have done your research on that person too. So you can tell them what about their career is interesting. And then maybe if you're lucky, also find out, if you can, what they did at Trinity. Maybe they also took a class with Professor whomever. So I guess that's sort of a long way of saying, identify what you're looking for in terms of who's looking for people, and then figure out how to connect yourself to that company through your network.
Yeah, that's a great segue. Kathryn, I'd love to get your ideas around how can I develop that network? How can I really build into that? How can I establish relationships? How can I make it seem like when I want to connect with someone, it's not always about something I need at the time? You know, how do I really build into my network?
So I think that the key to a successful professional career, and this is through your whole career, is your network and developing a network and maintaining a network. A network is not someone who can get you a job. A network is someone that you can have a conversation with where you are going to learn something from them and you're going to maintain that connection. I think in addition to when you have an interview, figuring out where that person is and where they come from, reach out to the Trinity students at that company. I mean, I think for me, I've interviewed thousands and thousands of college kids, and you can't be underprepared. You cannot know too much about the company. So that's reading the website. It's reading the content on the website. It's speaking to people that you can connect with that work there. I think more broadly, just about developing a network, if you're not sure what you want to do and you're just starting this job search, you know, within your community, whether it's your parents' friends, you know, whether it's someone you used to babysit for, whether it is, you know, someone that went to Trinity or someone that you just found on LinkedIn, it's important when you reach out that you have something to say. You know, so what is your personal brand? And when I ask students that, or I ask employees that, the first thing I usually get is smart and I have a lot of integrity. Well, I promise you that Lynn, Lisa, and I are not hiring people who aren't smart and don't have integrity, right? So when someone asks you in that networking conversation, so tell me about yourself, you need 3 things that you can say that differentiate you from other people, right? So I'm a problem solver, I'm resourceful, I run to the fire, I'm curious. What are those things about you that make them want to hire you as an employee? I think more importantly, though, when you mentioned it, is talk to anyone who will talk to you and make it a learning exercise. And I think the best conversations I have with Trinity students are where they're really curious about what my company does. They're really curious about what I do at the company. They're really curious about how people progress in their career at the firm. And I don't get the sense that they're talking to me solely for the purposes of getting a job interview. So I think you guys should use this time to, you know, refresh your LinkedIn, you know, have the Trinity team look at your LinkedIn if you haven't already, make sure it's up to date. Think about what the skills are that you need to have to be a remote worker, you know, a good communicator, because chances are a lot of the jobs that you're going to be looking, you know, to get or interviewing for will be remote. But I think, you know, follow up with your network. Someone taught me very early in my career to keep what was then an Excel spreadsheet. You guys probably have an app, but of every single person that I've talked to and where they work and a piece of advice they gave me. Because 5 years from now, I could be interviewing in that industry and I can go back and say, I spoke to you 5 years ago. I think those attention to details make all the difference.
Thank you. And you all have sort of talked about, it's staring you in the face, working with alumni. Lynn, can you talk to me about how I can communicate with alumni to better my network?
Sure. I think sort of piggybacking over what Kathryn just said is that basically, if you have something where in the Bantam network where somebody is specifically advertising for something, that's great. And you are very specific about it and you explain why you're excited about it and why, as Kathryn said, how can you help them do what they're trying to achieve, and you address that. If it's really just because you want to reach out to somebody as part of your network and your informational interviewing, and you really just want to get to know as many people as you can, the way to do that, I would say, is that you're asking them to spend their time speaking to you and teaching you and learning. And the fact is, people are really nice, meaning they usually want to help another Trinity alum, especially if they are on a list that they've given to Joe and all of that. So it's reaching out, and basically at this point, no matter how smart you are, no matter how much you've done, you probably don't have a lot of experience yet. But what you can really offer is gratitude. So it's reaching out by, being gracious and saying, I'd really appreciate it, and meaning it. And basically trying to connect with them on a personal level, meaning you may write 80 of these letters. In fact, I hope you do. More is more. But every single one of those 80s should feel like it's the only one you wrote to the person receiving it, meaning figure out what it is about them that makes you really excited to want to talk to them, or what they've done in their career, or what something that their company is really, that makes it exciting for you, and tell them what that is. And just say that you'd really be excited to talk to them, whether it's by Zoom or by phone, and make it easy for them. Just say whenever works for you is usually the best way to do it. I think that as recent grads, you guys are great at Zoom and at virtual communication. And that's something that comes naturally, and that's something you can offer. Some people you'll want to speak to are going to prefer a phone call. That just maybe what they offer. So this is, might sound silly, but I'd say, I have 3 children who are around your guys' age, and something that they're amazing at FaceTime and Zoom and all of that. They aren't necessarily as experienced as talking on the phone. So right now, use this opportunity to get your phone skills in good shape, and call your grandmother right now. She'd love to hear from you, and literally practice a little. Say, I'd love to tell you what I'm up to, Grandma. She'd love to hear it. So I guess what I'm saying is, in terms of reaching out to alumni, get personal and tell them what it is that you want to learn from them, and make it easy for them.
Great, thank you. And you talk about the value of research in a lot of what you all have said, actually, but what you just said, Lynn. I'd like to just kind of make a move more towards the hiring process, Lisa, and talk a little bit about, if I'm looking for a job, how can I find accurate information about the hiring practices of a company?
In our day, and I don't mean to sound like a geezer, but in our day before the internet, it was hard. You had to go to the library, you had to research, you had to use the periodical index, which I don't even know if that still exists in libraries anymore. Now with the internet, there is no excuse for you to go into a company not being fully informed about that company. And again, you don't need to turn into an equity analyst. We fully understand we fully understand exactly where you're coming from as a college student. But what you want to do is go to the website, go to the investor relations section of that website, and read what that company has said to its shareholders. Read the annual report. Read the beginning of the proxy statement. These appear dense, but actually they're very readable, and they will help you understand exactly what's going on with that company. I can't tell you, in my company, we all make sure we spend time every year interviewing college graduates who are wanting to join CVS. I can't tell you how often I have had an interview with someone for an hour, I've asked them a million questions and I've said to them, so what questions do you have for me? And they say, well, nothing. I'm like, how could that be? You're talking to the head of HR for a Fortune 5 company. You have no questions for me. You need to prepare for these interviews to show that you have taken the time to research how the company makes its money, to research what customers it has, to understand its strategy, to understand where it sits in the world of industry, and that you have questions. And your questions do not need to show that you're on top of the strategy. You're a new college grad. We know you're learning. Your questions should be, help me understand something. So you show that you're interested, that you're curious, and that as Lynn said, that this isn't just one in a series of interviews you're doing. It's the only one that matters to you right now. So do your homework, come in prepared with questions, come in prepared to have a dialogue about why you're intrigued by this company. People love to talk about themselves. Ask your interviewer what they do, what their career journey is, what lessons they've learned. It shows that you're engaged, it shows that you're a good listener, and most important, it shows that you care, that you're here because you care about the company, you care about the job, and that you're bringing your whole self to the interview.
That's great, and actually feeds into, we actually have a live question that plays into a couple of the things that both Lisa and Lynn have brought up. And the question comes from an anonymous attendee. Lynn says we should learn everything about a specific job, company, etc. Isn't it better to apply to lots of jobs versus focusing on one like she describes?
I think it's important to apply to several jobs, but it's not an either or. It's not, you shouldn't have your heart set on one job, nor should you apply to 80 jobs, right? You're beginning your career. This is all about choice. This is all about learning what's out there, and narrowing your focus will just limit your opportunity. But you should pursue those things that you're truly interested in, that you have the time to research. You shouldn't have a scattershot approach.
Yeah.
Joe, I'd like to just add something because I think it's a great question. It's a great question. I think the key is, yes, you can be looking at lots of different jobs and lots of different companies. But when you are writing a cover letter or when you are in an interview, for the purposes of that connection, that's when you need to know everything about the job, the role, the company, everything you can do. So the bad news is that it's hard work. The good news is you can do the hard work and then you can shine. So how do you find out all about a role and how about a company? Let's say you find out that you get the opportunity to have an interview with Lisa at CVS. Then you look through your network and find out whether it's somebody at Trinity who you don't even know, but somebody who's at Trinity Alumni. Who do you know who's at CVS? Who might you be able to have a telephone call with before you get to go meet somebody at CVS so that you can learn about what the company's doing or learn about the particular role that you're interviewing for and what they do? I think sometimes I've met with students who just were like, well, I don't want to seem like I was a stalker or who I just sort of did too much or I was too nosy. As long as it's all related to your business and your career and a way you can contribute, there's no such thing as I think Lisa said, there's no such thing as being too prepared. In fact, it's expected. So the more you can show that you've done your research. So point is, when you're in the meeting, that it feels like the only job. It doesn't mean it's the only one that you're looking for.
Yeah.
I think it's to add why it is that we keep emphasizing this point. It's not to show that you're smart and you understand CVS, right? Because a lot of people can do that. It's that you care. Because there are thousands and thousands of people looking for jobs. And what is going to differentiate you is that you appear to be actually interested in the company and interested in the profession. And it just differentiates you from the people who sent out 80 cover letters and got interviews because their resume looked good. But then they walk into the interview and they say, why do you want to work at Brown Brothers? And they say, I really want to do investment banking. I'm like, well, we don't do investment banking. So you just don't want that to happen. And I think it's about showing that you care versus like learning everything there is to know about a company.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah. Lynn, you just kind of touched on it about a minute ago about being prepared. How do I prepare to get into the workforce? What is the advice you have as I navigate this as a senior?
So to prepare meaning
Prepare to enter the workforce.
if you're in the process of looking for a job, which we all know is exciting, but it's a lot of work and it's hard and it sometimes can take time. So in the meantime, what I would say is make the summer of 2020 count, and make it count. And there are several ways you could make it count. And I'd say whatever you do, if it can answer this question, meaning is it giving you skills that will help you in whatever job you end up going to? Is it something that, or is it some way that you are able to contribute, both in terms of bettering yourself as a person, but also to the community? So the reason I mention that is times are different right now. So for example, if you are looking for something at Brown Brothers and you can not necessarily it's going to take a while, you might still be able to be taking a class or learning some sort of skill that will make you even more marketable to a Brown Brothers. Or you may be in your hometown and we're in the middle of a pandemic, and something that might typically not be something that might make sense to do right now might make a lot of sense. Right now, can you organize your friends or the people in your town maybe to start something where you're delivering food to seniors, for example? So that's making it count. That isn't necessarily doing a skill that's going to help you for the job, but it's something that you're going to be able to show. I organized, I took initiative, I made a difference, I had impact. So whatever you're doing while you're conducting your job search, I'd say do something that you're making it count. The other thing is that some of you may have had internships or even jobs that were supposed to happen that with the pandemic have fallen away. If those were there in the first place, it means that you were excited about it and the company was excited about you. There's no reason you can't go back to them and say, I know it's not the right time, there's a hiring freeze, but I'd love to, can I be of any help to you on a volunteer basis or on a temporary basis, or on a virtual basis? So it's sort of reframing and adapting to the new economy.
I really second that. If you had a job offer or an internship and it fell through because the company had no control over what's happening, stay in touch with that company. Write to your hiring manager, your recruiter, show in your letter that you're following what's happening with that company, comment on what's going on, but stay in touch. They will remember you if you stay in touch. If you disappear, then you really have disappeared. But if you stay in touch with an email every few weeks that shows you're keeping up and you're following, your name will be the one they remember when things open up again, and things will open up again.
I also think I love that advice because it will be hard to get jobs right now. I mean, it is opening up, but I think it is going to continue to be hard for several months. And taking Lynn's advice and doing something, even signing up and getting paid to be a contact tracer. I mean, every city is hiring contact tracers. And I think that for the rest of your life, when you're interviewing and they see that you are class of 2020, people are going to remember that was the pandemic. And they're going to say, oh my God, you were the class of 2020. What did you do? So do something cool. Be a contact tracer. I mean, I really think the economy will open up, but it's going to take time. And so if you have the ability to do something, innovative or entrepreneurial, this is the time to do it because people are going to remember the year 2020 for a very long time.
Yeah,
absolutely. They are. I have two kids who both graduated from NESCAC schools about 9 or 10 years ago. Got great educations, liberal arts degrees, and I said to both of them while they were doing their job search, go to the local community college, take a business law course, take an accounting course, take a marketing course. I don't care, but take something that will differentiate you and help you learn what I call the language of business. Take it pass, fail. Your GPA days are behind you. You don't need to worry about it anymore. But take something so that you can go in and immediately stand out with interviewers because you will speak the language of business, you'll understand some of the concepts, and it will be a leg up for you for the years of the early start of your career. They didn't take my advice right away, but a couple years out of college they did, and it's made a difference. It's made a difference for them. So if you have some spare time, you can do it online, but just learn basic concepts. It's all about differentiating yourself and being the person the hiring leader or the recruiter remembers because of how you show up.
Yeah, and I'd like to add too, there's a lot of great resources through the college. LinkedIn Learning is an account you can get. You can also go through Coursera, which is another great opportunity, especially because everything is virtual. So there are a lot of really great resources out there to fill that time during the summer. Lisa, you mentioned something about your kids actually going to NESCAC schools, which prompted me to think about how does my liberal arts background prepare me for
you know, it prepares you, and I don't mean to sound hokey, but it's the same reason you came here. When big companies hire, they are not hiring for the entry-level job. They're hiring for what they think you can bring to the company in your next job, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. We are hiring as an investment. So what we want are people who are curious, who are easily excited, who get passionate and enthusiastic about things, who know how to collaborate, who know how to do research, who know how to look at large amounts of data and figure out how to manipulate them in a way that they are understandable and intelligible. We're looking for people who understand that the answer is not necessarily what's in front of you, but around the corner, and know how to get around the corner. So we're interested in people who have been educated in such a way that they know it's not transactional, that it's not just a matter of regurgitating data back, but they know how to think. The same reason you chose a liberal arts college, that's why we will be hiring you.
And that makes me competitive?
Absolutely, Joe. It does.
Thank you. I want to kind of do a pivot a little bit, Kathryn, and talk about, things start to open up. I'm hearing from some of the things I've applied to, and I'm asked to come in for an interview. How do I prepare for that? We know a lot of companies are moving to virtual interviews if they haven't already, even before the COVID pandemic. How am I preparing for that?
Let me go. So thank you. So there are a lot of things you can do to make your, I think you have to assume that the interviews are going to be done over Zoom or some, other technology. I think the key is to try it first. Download the app if you don't already have it. Ask the person in HR if you can test it with them, 10 minutes, half an hour, like we all did. I mean, we were all panicking because we came from another meeting and we wanted to make sure that you could hear us. Again, you cannot over-prepare for that. Secondly, I think you need to have it quiet, well lit, have some nice lighting. Wear clothes, as if you were going in person and you were going to have a face-to-face interview. Make sure that your family and the dog know that you cannot be interrupted. Don't have vodka bottles over your shoulder. I've actually had several job interviews with kids on study abroad, and they're wearing a tie and jacket, but they're, I don't know what you guys call them, dead something, whatever behind them. Don't do that. I think, and practice before, get a family member to ask you questions, ask them questions. I just think it's all about being authentic. Recognize that there are going to be times where there's the delay. And so there's always the urge to answer the question. I think it's important when we're doing these types of interviews that you have to be really patient. You have to let the person finish. There will be technology ins and outs, and maybe acknowledge that up front, and then just be yourself. But prepare and make sure, you're all set.
Great, thank you. I also want to add too, just from a career development perspective, we actually have a product called Big Interview that you can actually practice and record yourself in an interview and send it to other people so they can help you critique it. So that's on the back end in Handshake, by the way, seniors. So if you do want to practice, if you've never done an online interview, Big Interview is a great product that we have for you on the back end of Handshake. So check it out. So Lisa, if I finally secure a job and I'm asked to start still during this COVID pandemic era, what can I expect from an onboarding process? How has that changed? How can I prepare myself for that? Where, we recently hired an administrative assistant here in the Center for Student Success and Career Development, and she started March 28th or something like that. Most of the staff haven't met her in person. And so how can I manage that? What can I expect?
So there's two parts to onboarding. The first was in many companies done virtually before the pandemic. And that's learning the policies, signing up for everything, getting your benefits, learning, all the things you need to know about the company. And in many cases, that was already online, and you could expect it to be online. But you usually had the benefit of that first day where you got walked around the office, somebody took you to lunch, they showed you where everything was. That will happen at some point in the future. It's not happening now. So you have to figure out a way to do that virtually now. Ask your hiring leader, can you set up some meet and greet times for me so that I can tell people who I am, they get a chance to see me. You do it through Zoom or Skype or WebEx. They get a chance to see me, but that I have during my first week, I have meet and greets with people who are going to be important to me. So I'm not meeting them the first time when I'm doing my work, when I'm doing a transaction. Ask for regular meetings with your hiring managers until you kind of get your feet underneath you. So whether they're weekly or every day, depends on the job, but ask for those meetings if they don't offer it. Ask for an onboarding plan. What is it you are expected to do and by when, and who are the resources that you need to be able to learn the things you need to know? A well-run company will offer this to you. They will say to you, here's your onboarding plan, here's your point person, here is your buddy if necessary, here are the people you need to know. If the company doesn't have it, ask for it and keep asking for it until you get it. Again, that will be seen as positive initiative, that will be seen that you're interested and that you want to do well. But don't assume it's just going to happen organically. The company should make it happen for you. If it doesn't, then you make it happen for you.
Great. Thank you. Kathryn, you talked a few minutes ago about your belief that things are starting to open up. Can you talk about sort of the market in a post-COVID world? Can we expect remote work to be the new norm?
Yeah, so at Brown Brothers, we have 97% of our 6,000 employees working remotely, and that happened over a 3-day period, so very, very quickly. And we're now in week 8, and we're talking as if this is something that will probably last through the end of the year. So we will begin to bring people back to the office, essential people, but client-facing employees will probably not go back into the office until the end of the year. Mm-hmm. So for the medium term, it's going to be remote. But the interesting thing is that we did a survey for our employees. We had 100% response rate, and we asked them, once COVID is over, if it's ever over, when there's a vaccine, when people can feel safe congregating, do you want to get back to work in the office 5 days a week? Do you want to work from home 5 days a week? Or do you want to work from home 2 to 3 days a week? 80% of our employees who all had previously worked 5 days a week in the office said they want to work 2 to 3 days a week from home. Mm. So I think, when we continue to follow up with these questions, people are realizing that you can actually be productive, in some cases more productive when you're working from home. And so we are rethinking, obviously workspace configuration, because when we bring people back, they need to be socially distanced, the same calculus that's going on for the return of students back to Trinity. All of the companies are doing the same thing. And so we're going to need people to work from home, right? We're going to need more space. So I do think this is the new norm. I think there's some jobs that are more difficult than others. But the other interesting thing is that we asked employees, we gave them a choice of 8 things. What's the first thing you're going to do when you can do anything? And the last thing, like 3% said go shopping. So, and the first was, go out with a friend. Mm-hmm. So I think this whole thing is making people have a different perspective of what is important, a lot more gratitude for health and for friends and everything. And so I do think it's going to change the way that we work and we live. The other thing that's come out of this, I know for our young college graduate employees, a very significant number of them have had apartments that were small that they were sharing with 3 or 4 other people, and there just simply was not enough space for them all to work there from home. There was no desk and, a big living room. Many of them have gone home and have come back to us recently to say that they've made life decisions, that they want to stay, they don't want to return to New York City. So for a lot of those employees, we have offices in other places, and, we will find jobs for them. But I think that this is a dynamic that a lot of firms in New York City are facing. So I do think they're going to be more entry level and junior opportunities for those who are comfortable going to New York, because a lot of people are leaving. So, again, another opportunity, if you're comfortable there or you have family there, I think there'll be more jobs for early entry.
Yeah. So I know we prepared a couple more questions, but actually, Kathryn, one that came in aligns with something you and I talked about a little bit from a student, which is what do you think of working for a temp agency until the fall, whenever things open up? Which sort of lines up with one of the themes we thought about, which was, what should I do if I don't get a job? And I know we've talked about, taking some courses and some lifelong learning. So what do you think about a temp agency?
I think you should use, right now with all the uncertainty and firms not knowing when they're going to hire and when they're not, I do think that traditionally, college graduates didn't think so much about temp agencies, but in our Boston office, we have always had a temp, what we call a temp to perm strategy. So these are jobs in our custody business, which are, fund accounting, fund administration jobs that we hire, hundreds and hundreds of them. And the temp agencies do a lot of vetting that you don't have to do yourself. And they're the first people to get the jobs that are the jobs that are on the, for surges or for disruptions. And right now we're in a bit of a disruptive situation. And so I think that there are smaller companies that are relying on, search firms and temporary firms to fill those. So it's worth taking a look at those options.
Yeah, thank you. We have about 10 minutes left. I had one more question that we had prepared together, and then I have 4 more questions from the students, if that's okay. Mind if we grab those 5?
Sure.
So this one for Lisa, what jobs would you see being in most demand, and is there anything I should avoid? I know we touched on this a little bit, but if you could spend a minute or two talking about what I should avoid if I'm applying, and what you think will be a good opportunity for me as a graduating senior.
Well, I wouldn't take flying lessons with the aim of being a pilot right now. I think I'd wait on that. But virtually, anything in what used to be called the knowledge economy, we will continue to have lots of opportunities for jobs where people need to be virtually face-to-face. And whether it's in it's reaching out to clients or customers, whether it's reaching out to members in insurance plans, whether it's reaching out to B2B or B2C kind of clients, there's always going to need to be a human touch. We're all learning to do it virtually now or through phone calls instead of the face-to-face. But any opportunity where you learn how to serve a customer. My father was a guidance counselor in high school, and he used to say to me, 2 skills you can get before you go to college. You should learn how to handle money by being a cashier, and you should learn how to do customer service by being a waitress. Yeah. And, it sounds kind of simple, but it's true. You need to know the value of money and how people think about it. And you need how to provide good customer service, and especially how to manage, shall we say, difficult customers and learn how to defuse situations. So when you're thinking about what jobs to apply to, I would suggest that you think about the matrix, not so much in terms of the verticals of disciplines, but in terms of the portable skill sets that you want to have. You want to learn how to deal with the external world, with people who want something from your firm. You want to learn how to provide that service. Most importantly, you want to learn how to defuse situations where they're unhappy. You want to learn how a transaction is processed. You want to learn about operations. You want to learn about how to take large amounts of data and turn it into something that you can use. You want to learn how to influence and impact people, how to give a good presentation and be persuasive. You want to learn how to read a room. You want to learn how to be able to convince people to get them to do things if they don't work for you, right? You want to learn the value of being able to be an influencer rather than just a manager. So lots of environments in which you can do that. But what you don't want to do is to learn them environments where your future is defined for you because you've, as I've said earlier, pigeonholed yourself to a single discipline. Now is the time for you to explore. No one expects you to pick a career now. No one expects you to know now where you're going to be in 20 years. Now is the time for you to explore and to think about how you're building your own toolkit rather than just how you're building your resume.
Yeah, thank you. There's a question from a student, and Lynn, you sort of touched on this a little bit, and I'd love to hear your response on this one, which is, how have you built mentors throughout your career? How often do you reach out? How do you not sound too promotional when sharing your successes?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a great question. And, sort of getting back to what we all sort of talked about from the beginning here, which is your network, is your network isn't just the people you go to when you need a job. Your network are the people who are in your corner and you're in theirs. And I think as you right now are looking for jobs and you're reaching out to people, something I can't stress enough is say thank you. And say thank you if somebody referred you to somebody else and that person, it turns out that they weren't that helpful to you. Say thank you. And go back and report, say, oh, I spoke to so-and-so and they told me some great things about that. Thanks so much for putting me in touch. Meaning the way to maintain it is to really stay in touch with your network when you don't need them. Bring them into your loop. Share your good news. If you do go get a temp job while you're looking for a job, which I think is a great idea, by the way, because when you're in a job interview, you don't want to be talking about your job search. It's not that interesting. You want to be talking about what you're doing, whether it's volunteer work, a temp job, or taking a class. So in terms of your mentor or in terms of your network, share all of your successes, share what you're doing, and anything that they've done for you, keep saying thank you. If you see an article that you think they'd be interested in, send it their way. So the point is that if you keep up with your network, really just to connect with them and share what's going on with you, then they're also going to be there when you need them. And just as important, if you see through LinkedIn or through reading up on them that something great happened to them, send out a congratulations. It doesn't matter how senior they are, how old they are, they will love to hear it from you. So I'd say the best way to really develop mentors is to connect with people and share your successes and congratulate them on theirs.
Yeah. That's a great advice for maintaining a network too, because I think that's what falls off quite a bit is there's that great beginning and then someone gets the job and then it just sort of, I think, fizzles a little bit. So that's just great advice on maintaining a network. Another question that came in, and we did touch on this a bit, what would you recommend to a graduate that had a good job lined up in August, but it was postponed to January 21? Should I look for other positions despite that it would only be for a couple months?
Well, I think the first thing to do is to reach out to them and say, I know my job doesn't start until January, but I'm so excited about it. I can't wait to get started right now. Is there anything I can be doing either to make myself even better for January or to be contributing right now, even if it's virtually? I would reach out on that basis because that's just going to make you better prepared and better able when the time comes. Okay. But short of that, I think from now until January, in the scheme of what's going on right now, it's a long time. You can do that volunteer internship, or you can do that temp job, or you can do that amazing community service project. I think if I had to sort of give one sort of is get busy. Get busy toward what's really exciting now. You're graduating and great things are happening and you can make them happen. And there's no reason to wait. I'd say, do something while you're waiting.
Yeah, thank you. We have two more quick questions. And I'm not sure if anyone has experience here, but for students starting in a startup company, how would you seek and it sounds like this person is starting a startup. How would you seek and develop relationships with Trinity alums to get insights, mentorship, and guidance? And I think we talked a little bit about that already, but does anybody have anything to add as far as the startup world is concerned?
I think there are a lot of entrepreneurs at Trinity and would love to talk to you about their experience. We have one that recently joined the board who has had several startups, and I know he talks and hires Trinity graduates all the time. So I would use that Bantam network and see the experience that the network has. because people love to talk about companies that they've started. And so I think you can get a lot of advice and maybe some investors if you do it right.
There. Yeah, I think the Bantam Career Network is a great place. There are a lot of entrepreneurs, as Kathryn shares, that have started their business, and there's a plethora. There's almost 2,000 alumni on there right now that are eagerly waiting to help. So the Bantam Career Network will be the place to go.
Lynn's sister, by the way, I just want to make a plug for Lynn's sister, who started a company when she left Trinity that she recently sold. She's now dedicating herself to philanthropy, but she writes a lot of articles about entrepreneurship, and she recently published one in Forbes in which she encouraged college graduates to think about what does this country need right now and be an entrepreneur. It's a really good time to create something.
Yeah, and she like many generous Trinity alum love talking to Trinity grads too. So she, like many of them, will be excited to hear from you. I think the key is reaching out to them and telling them about why you want to talk to them, and showing your excitement about what they're doing.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. The last question I have from a student is: say you're more of a creative problem solver type who is deathly afraid of spreadsheets. How can you find the right position at a company that fits you, and also know what each job specifically entails to match you?
First thing is, don't be afraid of spreadsheets. It's just software. You can master it. It's just software.
And HR is a great profession too, by the way. I mean, there's so many jobs that don't require financial skill, but I agree with Lisa that anyone can learn a spreadsheet.
Yeah, and their spreadsheets aren't for doing complicated financial analysis only. They're for for documenting and maintaining data. They're for manipulating data. It's don't ever let fear of something stop you from realizing your full potential. Don't ever let that be the thing that makes you look back and say, if only. Don't let that be the thing.
Yeah. Well, that concludes all of our questions from our students. Before we sign off, I just want to send my sincerest thanks to Lynn, Kathryn, and Lisa. I can't tell you how much I appreciate from the bottom of my heart you taking the time out of your busy schedules to spend your evening with our graduating seniors. Any last second words before we head out?
Good luck to all of you. You're going to be great.
Yeah.
And congratulations on your graduation.
Yeah.
Congratulations, and get excited because the work world, there is lots there for you to do, and it's going to be great. But I'll be thinking of you. I guess it's this Sunday, right? Congratulations.
Yeah, and thank you. Shameless plug, Career Development is here for you. If you have a need for a coaching appointment, we are doing Zoom coaching appointments one-on-one now and throughout your time as an alum. It never ends. So please feel free to reach out to us. Use the Bantam Career Network. That's bcn.trincoll.edu. And make sure you jump on Handshake. There's plenty of jobs and internships out there. But from Career Development, thank you all so much. Have a wonderful evening. Good luck. And if you need anything, reach out to Career Development. Thank you.
Good luck all.
Thank you.
Bye.